This is the reason why you should buy. And we're not asking the most important question, the reason why it was important for them, in their heart of hearts. Like, that's a sale. Then we're going to see results, the mindset, going into every opportunity, saying to yourself, I would love to have the business, but I don't need the business. When they talk about building their organization just through referral, that means they're missing it. The internet almost shut down because they're like, are you blind? Do you not know what's going on out there? Do you not see what's happening?
You just hit 250,000 cold calls. Congratulations.
Oh, am I excited about today's Pipe podcast. Wow, we have Usman Sheikh with us today, and I am so happy to have you here, Uzman. Thank you so much for being here. Wait until the viewers and the listeners hear about this technology solution and this solution that you're putting out into the marketplace, which I think is just a dynamic. I mean, it is so exciting to even talk about. And of course, I'm your host, Crispin Cruz, with the Pipe podcast. And Pipe, we talk about sales process, sales initiatives, sales prospecting and sales experiences. And that's all kind of wrapped around what we do here at the Pipe and what we talk about. And so I just love to jump right into it. Before we do that, Uzman, would you mind just sharing with with those listeners and viewers, just give them a little background about yourself, and maybe tell our listeners and viewers, give them a 30-second commercial on Uzman, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, not a problem. And thank you so much, Chris, for having me on your show.
You bet.
My name is Usman Sheikh. I'm CEO and founder of an AI-based startup in Silicon Valley called XIQ. XIQ stands for Multiplier Intelligence or Cross Intelligence. My background has been with SAP, which is the world's largest B2B company. I spent a decade and a half with them in multiple international locations doing business development, doing product management, and then eventually building their digital commerce marketplace. And the idea behind XIQ, as we will talk about it, came from my experience in having worked with some of the best salespeople and identifying what were some of their best practices and what were some of the areas where they fell short, and how could we use the latest and greatest technology to kind of rethink the sales process. And that's what XIQ does.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And now we're hearing so much about AI and how that's impacting organizations throughout the world, right? And so let's just talk about a little bit about how AI is either transforming, B2B sales process, and what that kind of looks like, in your world, Uzman, if you don't mind.
So Chris, as you know, B2B selling is becoming stale. We've been doing the same old for the last 30 years. It's the same pipeline management. It's the same things that we do for demand generation. It's the same way cookie cutter approaches for reaching out to customers. And, it's kind of an interesting little statistic that 84% of qualified leads that come in to salespeople actually fall. They don't really mature into any kind of deals. There's no sales conversation. And so why is that happening, right? The reason that's happening is because the world has moved on. There's a lot of data and digital signatures that we leave out there. Customers and prospects demand personalization. They get it in their civilian lives, right? And they want it in their business lives as well, right? When I order a pizza, they already know what I want on toppings, and within seconds, 30-minute guaranteed delivery, et cetera, et cetera. That's been going on for quite some time, right? Mm-hmm. But I can't get that same kind of personalization and individualization in B2B selling. I'm sure you've experienced, right? The same old email that comes over to you and says, hey, Chris, did you read my email from last month? And then did you read the one before that 3 months ago, and so on? That's stale. It is just designed to make people angry, actually. It has the adverse effect of what we are trying to do, which is to engage people, right? B2B sales is about people. And if we can't get mind share, and if we can't kind of engage them and put a smile on their face, we've lost them, right? So it's got to be intriguing. It's so when we thought about AI, to answer your question, what is transformative in AI, right? So as I mentioned, there's a lot of data in the sales process, from your pipeline data, from your personal data, from your sales related data, news about companies, financials about companies, and so on. And you need all this data to be analyzed to be able to have an intelligent conversation with your prospects, to really impress them that you really know and understand their business. Remember,
Right.
some of the old things were that, when your customer says, hey, you really understand my business, that's almost the deal has been signed, right?
That's right. That's
And
right.
there's a lot of information. On the other hand, because the sales process is so fragmented, there's so many pieces of technology, there's so many new roles that have come into B2B selling, the SDR, the BDR, the pre-solution engineer, the demand generation person, the field marketeer. There's so many people now involved in that buying process that the customer is getting handed off from one person to the other person to the other person, and that's a horrible user experience.
Right.
So what AI does is it helps us connect those disparate dots, and it helps us bring in that information that can make us look intelligent. It can do it in a very short period of time, and we will talk about how it even adds personalization to the equation, right?
Mhm.
So it really makes me an improved person to talk to one of my prospects because I understand their business, right?
Yeah.
So AI is extremely transformative. Big data, analyzing it in microseconds, and then being able to produce insights that you can use in your traditional sales methodologies, right? The best practices that we've known. And that's what we did with XIQ. We went and modeled the best practices of the top salespeople, the top 5%. And we
Mhm.
said, how do we take these top 5% of the best practices and make them available? And AI plays a very significant role in XIQ in helping
That's
us.
great. Well, let's talk about now in our training with Sales Arbiter, and even when we're out training, coaching, mentoring with clients and prospects, right? Or with clients and their sales teams. It's really interesting because the foundation, and one of the things that drew me to your solution and to have you on the show today and to talk more about it, is the foundation of our training program is DISC, right? And so can you talk a little bit about DISC and how that works, in the solution set for XIQ as well?
Yeah, so maybe I start by giving your audience an idea of what DISC really is. So it's a behavioral science, and another name for this kind of behavioral science is psychometric analysis. So how does your brain go about making decisions? How does it influence you to communicate? What are the words that you may be using? How do you make decisions, right? And this science has existed for over 100 years. And Chris, Dr. William Marston, by the way, interestingly enough, the guy who invented Wonder Woman, created Wonder Woman, did this back in 1923. I think he was a Harvard psychologist, and he created this, and it's been working. So a lot of companies, including where I used to work at SAP, use this to analyze, kind of like the old saying, what color is your parachute, right? Like
Mhm.
how do you want to be analyzed? Like what would be a good career path? Well, those same traits exist today in helping selling, because if I can understand the mindset of my prospective buyer, more than half the battle is won already, right? Because now I'm communicating with them in a style they like to be communicated with.
Mhm.
I am engaging with them using the words, using the topics that they're interested in, and I just become much more relevant rather than just taking that same old stale stuff that has been going on for the last 30 years and reusing that, right? And
Mhm.
so freshness is a very, very important thing that is required in kind of upgrading that traditional selling process, right?
Right. Right.
And,
And
and,
that's
sorry, and this, let me just close that off. And
go
this
ahead. Go ahead.
kind of understand that mindset, right? It is the behavioral science. And one other thing I want to add to that, sorry, Chris, I know I stopped and then kind of kicked back again. But one of the things I want to talk about is that if you think about it, all of us interpret things in a different manner, right?
Mhm.
It's very subjective. So, we may look at the same person, and if four people are looking, they'll have four different opinions on that person, right?
Sure.
God knows who's right and who's wrong, right? So with behavioral science, what it does is it kind of levels that playing field. This is scientifically proven 95% of the time to kind of be able to predict how this person is going to react and think about things. So it gives you kind of a scientific method to really start engaging with that people. And by doing that, it takes that uncertainty, the guesswork out of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of an important thing that DISC helps us do.
Well, and you said something that's just so valuable. And when you talk about having a higher level of engagement with your potential prospect, right? And being able to do that because you're speaking their language, because what you're saying or writing or connecting with them in some way is it's connecting with them on a higher emotional level. And I think that's important, at least, and I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I think it's important because when we're out there and we're talking about sales and we're talking about when you're actually engaging with a prospect, whether it's through some mechanism like email or a voicemail or something that where you're not actually having a conversation like you and I are having right now, but you're hoping to lead to the point to having to have a conversation or connection with your prospect in this way. Those tools that you talk about with, I mean, just something as simple as helping you to write an email or write a correspondence to someone that's going to resonate more loudly with them, in that way. Then how does that help to improve, just the response ratios, Uzman?
Yeah. So let me explain this a little bit. So B2B sales is emotional, justified by logic. There are two sets of decision cycles going on in the buyer's mind. One is the professional. I got to do this. I need to be able to buy technology that is going to help me improve my return on investment. It's going to help me accelerate my sales process. It's going to make me more intelligent. Those are my professional objectives and goals, right? But then in parallel are my personal motivations, right? And those personal motivations are very, very important. Well, that's all good, but it's going to be a headache for me to take this technology and roll it out. And, I'll have to work at nights, I'll have to work at weekends. Do I really want to do that? And then there's the other stuff, the flip positive side of it as well, which is that if I do this, I will look like a game changer. I will look like the champion that's brought innovation into my company. And I will be able to show significant, drastic results. So all of this is playing out in the mind of now not one buyer, but a buying committee. There are like 12 people involved, right? So take that as a kind of a background, as a basis in terms of how do we communicate, and becoming increasingly difficult to meet people in person, understand what are the words, as you were saying, how should I craft an email, what should I really bring to the forefront. I can go to LinkedIn and I can see, okay, this guy went to Michigan and, he's cool because of that, which he is, right?
So are you.
So go blue. I need to get that in there somewhere, right?
That's right.
So it kind of does that. But, you got to go beyond that. I need to be able to justify, so the emotional part, I said, go blue. I kind of, resonated with you just for a little bit. I kind of broke that first piece of ice with you. But then, the decision is not going to be based on, hey, go blue, right? It's going to be based on, I have an investment. And, in these large companies where B2B selling is taking place, the people that have been selected to make those decisions are very seasoned individuals, right? They've been selling and they've been buying, and they are good in what they do. They're not somebody that rolls off the street and suddenly they put them in, hey, go and buy a $20 million system or cybersecurity or something like that, right?
Right.
It's a very big responsibility. And so when you go beyond that, that kind of initial emotional touch and you start justifying the logic, now I have to work through that piece as well. So it's both those pieces. And then I need to be able to take what I understand at a logical level and be able to communicate it to you. So it becomes your personal motivation, your personal goal. It speaks to you, right? So here's my logic. And then it speaks to me that to you that, hey, Usman or Chris, if you select this solution, it will make your life easier. It will make you look good, right? And by the way, it's good for the overall organization. It's good for your customers. All that kind of stuff has to start adding up, right?
Yeah.
So
it's so good. And when we talk about and I get so excited about this because, and I go back to just the training, that we talk about when you're having this level of engagement with your potential prospect, and wherever it starts or however that starts. And when when it's working, because a lot of times, Uzman, I'm saying, to those that again that we work with, I'm saying, okay, put yourself in the prospect's shoes. Put yourself in the prospect's shoes. Put yourself in the prospect's shoes. Like, I'm continuing to remind these organizations and those sales leaders and the sales people that we engage with. I'm saying, think about how you buy. Think about how you buy, right? And you probably have made some sort of a major purchase, right, over the past, and I'll just make it up, over the past 5 years or 3 years or whatever. And you went out and you did your research and you looked in the marketplace and you knew the average cost or price of the product or service that you were looking to purchase. And you acted like a good prospect, right? Because all prospects have gone to prospect school and they know how to be a prospect. Like, they're good at being prospects, right? And so they did all the research, and then when you met with the salesperson or the individual that was going to sell you the product or service, you lied to them, because prospects lie, and they lie all the time. And so you did all that, right? You acted like a good prospect. But at the end of the day, you may have had two front runners, right? And at the end of the day, you made the decision, and you may not even know why you did. You may just say to yourself, well, listen, Uzman's product is kind of the same as this one in the marketplace. Uzman's, pricing is kind of the same. I think they're both going to drive to the same potential, outcome. The solution is going to work pretty much the same. But man, there's just something about this company. There's just something about this guy that I just can't put my finger on. But I'm going to go with Uzman. Like, I'm going to go with his company because, and I don't know why, it's just, I have a better connection with him. I have a better engagement with him. I have a better relationship with him. How does that resonate with you? How does that work in your world, Uzman?
Oh, so perfectly. And you're in the sales world, and you know how, unfortunately, a lot of the sellers have become very contrived. They like to use big buzzwords. They like to throw out a lot of things out there, and people see through that, lack of, genuineness, right?
Mm-hmm.
They see that this person is contrived. They're trying to say these things, and the reality, the honesty has to come through. And I think that's kind of like a universal best practice. You got to say, even if you say, look, my product is not good for you, it's not the right fit,
Mm-hmm.
that add bonus points to you, because at some point they will come back and say, well, this guy was telling me the truth. And that really matters a lot. And that's where, and that's just one example, but there are countless other examples of likability. I said this on a podcast the other day, and somebody said, hey, likability is a very controversial topic. So I was like, okay, why is likability so much, but people like to do business with people that smile, that are
Yeah,
like,
that's
right?
right.
I don't want to be talking to somebody who's going to be frowning and, is going to be like, I'm solving a problem statement. That's like a resistance that goes up. Now, a lot of this can be taught, by the way. It's some of
Mhm.
these things, some of these skills are absolutely natural. But,
Mhm.
again, having those kind of tools like DISC and the assessments that can help you understand, look, maintain a very strict game face with this person, right? Give them anecdotal examples, or give them a lot of data and smile a lot, right? Or crack some jokes and crack jokes about that. Those are extremely valuable insights, that kind of change my approach from a one size fit all
Mhm.
to a, I've personalized it with you, Chris. I know how to kind of engage you. I know how
Right,
to look you in the eye. I know how to kind of
right.
elicit that emotional response from in addition. And those are the factors that kind of differentiate between winners and losers.
Mm. That's great. That's great. It's just so good. So let me just ask you this, Uzman. What would be the three things that you would say that businesses better be doing in the next 12 months or the next 18 months? What do they need to have their finger on the pulse of to really be successful in growing their organizations, in growing their sales teams, in growing their businesses? They better have these three things. Like, if they're not figuring it out, if they haven't already figured it out, they better get working to make sure that they know what's going to happen and how they can grow their business over the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, first of all, McKinsey just wrote a report about the state of generative AI in 2023, because this has really come out of the woodwork and just kind of taken over the world. And what they predicted was that on an annualized basis in B2B sales and marketing, generative AI is going to have a 1.2 trillion, not a billion, $1 trillion impact on productivity, right? That's huge. That's global economies, that's countries being built. Think about that, 1.2 trillion per year that comes out, right? And so, what is the driver in that? And the driver in that is generative AI, right? So what do companies need to do to think about that? There's a lot of skepticism out there about AI, right? There's skepticism, oh, this is garbage. Well, think about it. It's literally been born 8 months ago, right?
Mhm.
It's crawling, but it's already really, really good. The kind of emails that writes is gazillion times better than some of the people that are writing. I know that might not be a popular statement, but it is. Why? Because I'm getting that cookie cutter email, and I'm seeing even sometimes our own sales guys are taking the same cookie cutter approach and sending it out, and it just kind of annoys me, right? Why are you doing it when you have capabilities? We are not going to go back on AI. AI is here to stay.
Mhm.
AI is not going to take your job. AI, think about AI, we like to call AI augmented intelligence, right? And what is the augmentation? It is analyzing all that data that's out there. So the clever, smart, progressive people, sales leaders, will see how they can channel this augmented intelligence to raise the game of their sales players,
Hmm.
right? And kind of help them make better decisions, help them understand the mindset of their prospective buyers, custom tailor that approach. Literally, all the things that we've been talking and telling, the soft side of selling, which is really not the soft side of selling, it is actually selling, right?
Right.
All
Right.
of those things are still pertinent. They're very, very pertinent,
Hmm.
right? However, we have lost touch with those things, right? When I used to be at SAP, the statement used to be, you've got two eyes, two ears, and one mouth, and use them in that order, right?
Right.
Right. The best sales guys are really, really like a fly on the wall. They never looked like those, flamboyant, charismatic guys that would, hey, how you doing, right? Walking in and kind of lighting up the room. And they were scoring the big deals, right? And that makes a lot of difference, because it's really those best practices that need to be taught again, but in a new environment. And we've got a lot of things competing against us getting there. One of them is we've got to sell to about 12 people in the buying committee,
Hmm.
right? Second thing is that there's a lot of data. Everybody, all those 12, 15, 16 people want personalization.
That's right.
Three, I'm not going to be able to talk to them. Four, I'm dealing with about, on average, B2B sales makers deal with about 12 different technology solutions. I'm spending more time updating my CRM system and learning how to, look up contacts and how to kind of navigate through a particular platform than I am doing what I should be doing. So all of that is competing with your ability to sell. I
Yeah.
read somewhere that it's like less than 28% of the sales maker's time is actually spent on selling,
Mm.
right?
Wow. Yeah.
72% of their time they're doing non-value added updates, right? So we've taken the sellers away from selling. And not only have we done that, we've taken them away from, let's put it this way, the art of selling,
Mm.
right? And
Mhm.
the art of selling today can be substantiated by AI, because I can learn how to do a customized pitch based on knowing their personality, what are their opportunities. One of the things that we use in our platform when we go in and write an email is that we say, hey, what are Chris's personal motivations that will help him grow in his job? Think about that, right? This is very, very core, but it's a
Right.
question that is very, very difficult to answer. But now AI can help us do that because it has many different reference points.
Mm.
Has a job description, it has your personality, it has your company, it has your industry. All of those are feeding into helping me understand what would be your motivation and your motivation. And then like, are you really a person that wants to succeed? Or you just want to go ho hum along with the for the ride, right? And
Right.
knowing those kind of things is like super important, but we don't have time to kind of gather. And then on top of that, we are virtual. I can't go into your office and see, hey, he has two daughters and one son, and this is where he went to school, and blah blah blah. All the things that in the old days the sales guys could go and check just to kind of help. What is your favorite sports team? What do you do over the weekends? Like, what are your
Mhm.
hobbies? What flavor ice cream you like?
Right. Right.
All those things, and that's what really makes the difference. I don't have time to do that. Well, AI can help you get to that point, right?
Mm.
So
Yep. That's great. That's great. So let's talk about how now we do have some that watch the podcast, listen to it, engage, and they're true entrepreneurs, and they maybe they have a few employees. They don't have these big legions of employees, right? And they're small. I say they're small tactical companies, right, that are out there that are looking to grow and continuing to gain market share in their markets and their industries. How do they how do you get started with AI? Like, what would you recommend, like, that they do? Because I know a lot of your companies are more enterprise size companies, right? But how does this, maybe the smaller entrepreneur, the small business person, how do they get involved with AI? What would you recommend? Where do they start?
so let me throw this out to you. So McKinsey said $1.2 trillion of productivity in selling. Okay.
Mhm.
So what that means and what tools like ours do is there is no longer a requirement for small companies to behave like small companies. Why?
Uh,
you know it's my preparedness. Why should I be resigned to the fact that my revenue is less than $100 million or $10 million or $5 million? Why can't I operate? As a matter of fact, that's what's really going to happen, right? It's going
right.
to take me up. And like we've been talking throughout, it's the personalization, it's being able to analyze the data,
Mhm.
it's being able to take the insights, and today it's at your fingertips. It really doesn't take that long to get. I mean, honestly, we do this every day. All our salespeople go from strategy, identifying what is the pain point,
Mhm.
mapping our solutions, identifying who are the prospective buyers, what are conversation starters with those buyers, how should I engage them, and then what are their personal motivations, right? And then we write, and we do this, believe it or not, in less than 10 minutes.
Mm.
Less than 10 minutes. Think about that, right?
Yeah.
We've got the SWOT analysis going, we've got all of that, and the generative AI pieces, taking all these things and
Mm.
helping you do that. This is an unprecedented opportunity with AI. So, number one thing, my recommendation to your answer is think big. You can think big. Don't resign yourself into sitting in a small box, because today, with these tools, you can really leapfrog, right? You can jump. You have the opportunity to kind of move up. You can perform like the top of the ladder, top of the companies that invest a lot of money in sales. You can do that at a relatively significantly cheap clip, right? So
Mhm.
you can do that because technology allows you to do that. So stop thinking. Second thing I would say is that you got to think through your processes. You can't do the same old with new technology, right? I like
Mhm.
to use the example of the bullet train, right? The bullet train does not run at 210 kilometers or 180 miles per hour on the same train tracks that it was, the regular diesel engine runs on, right?
Mhm.
So you've got to rethink that you've got a new infrastructure and you've got to be able to move fast on it. Third
Mhm.
thing I would say, the complexion of selling, Chris, this is kind of an interesting thing, right? I'd love to debate you on this actually.
Yeah.
The complexion of selling has changed. What I mean by that is that the way we today have to be on Zoom boxes, right?
Mhm. That's right.
And a lot of people back in the pandemic days, a lot of seasoned sales guys resigned. They left sales. You know that, right? There's the big attrition still going on, by the way. And
Sure.
one of the complaints was, I don't want to be an inside salesperson, right?
Hmm.
The rules had changed. You're not going to go play golf with them. You can't go play golf with them, right? And then the economics changed as well. Because you were not playing golf with them, and because you were not going to Las Vegas and partying with them, but your sales numbers were actually going up. The CFO saw that, right? The
Yep.
CFO saw that and said, hey, why do I need to do this? Why do I need to kind of invest in events and things like that cost us so much when these guys sitting in their kitchen, right, in shorts and just wearing a tie on top can actually sell better, right? But the type of person that was succeeding changed as well, right? And that's what I mean by the complexion of sales. It was those people that were much more savvy with technology, right? To,
Mhm.
we have generations of people that are the TikTok generation, they're the Instagram generation. They live on video, they know how to communicate, they know how to convince, right? And
Mhm.
they're really, really like television stars that are actually behaving, like stars on TV. Not everybody that's been in traditional selling will transition to that. A.
Right.
So the personality type is going to change. Two, due diligence has become, and data science, those two things have become a major part of sales, right? I talk to a lot of sales leaders and they say, look, Usman, I sit there and I'm wearing my data science hat and I'm looking at my pipeline and I'm looking at my customers and I'm analyzing them all over the place. Like, what is their profitability? I've got my data hat on. And then I have to switch from that data hat and go into my sales hat, right? And I have to put on my sales hat. That's become kind of second nature. So the person, think about this, right? The person that's going to be able to wear those three hats, right? Function in this virtual environment and connect, right? Second, be able to have the due diligence, right? And be able to conduct the due diligence in order to do that and be very comfortable with these tools is a different person than traditionally we've had in sales,
Yeah.
right? So we're going to see a shift in that. Still, the rules of selling, people buy from people they trust and like. That will always universally be there, right? But who does that and who earns that trust will change.
Yeah. Now, Uzman, I added one to that. So people buy from people that they trust, that they like, and that are like them, that are like them. So another another piece that we talk about with the disc and trying to, understand their behavior type, and then trying to match and mirror that, or at least be recognized that you could make that prospect not okay by, if you're this high I behavior type, like sometimes I have to cage that I. Like if I'm in a selling event, I'm actually meeting with a potential prospect, right? And if they're a C behavior, if they're very analytical, or they're an S behavior type, I've got to ask lots of questions. I got to slow down my talk track. I got to do a lot of active listening. Like I have to be aware of the prospect's behavior so that I can lean into that, and not have this raging eye behavior type come out that I just know is going to be like nails on a chalkboard, right? And so it's so interesting. Like I just love it. I love what you're doing. I think it's just bringing so much value and so much purpose and so much opportunity to those organizations that I'm sure that you're serving with this, and you're serving up this solution to. And another reason why I was just so excited to have you on. Is there anything that we missed in the solution before we kind of pivot to the Sales Arbiter 7, or anything else that you'd like the audience to know about as it pertains to XIQ and what you're doing, the remarkable, service that you're providing and the solution that you're providing in the marketplace today?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, first of all. So I fully agree. What you just described in tempering down your I personality and how you engage with the studies, the S personalities versus the C personalities, I think that's spot on. However, to confine to the discipline of being able to, first of all, identify who is an ISC, right? That's at this point, without a tool like XIQ, it's a little bit arbitrary. I know you coach people, right? But it is still 100 minds, 100 different interpretations.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
that's why the uncertainty and the predictability comes by actually using behavioral science, which has a high degree of, not 100% accurate, but has a significantly higher accuracy in terms of predicting the personality type of the people. And then it coaches you on that, right? It coaches you in terms of how you should actually engage with that person, right? So I fully agree with that. As a matter of fact, I think that's really, really a strong statement that you're making, and I think that's excellent. And again, a tool like ours just helps you um, kind of level that playing field, right? Take the guesswork out of that, uh,
Mhm.
and it's always there. It's on your mobile device, right?
Right. Right.
So I could be walking into a meeting and somebody shows up that I don't know from before. In 30 seconds or less, I'm fully up to speed with who they are, what
Mm.
their role is, how I should actually engage with them, how
Yeah.
much tempering I should do. So absolutely correct.
It's almost unfair. It's almost unfair to those that are competing against you, because of just the information and data that you would have at your fingertips. It's
Yeah.
amazing to me. So let's go ahead and move into the Sales Arbiter 7, if you're okay with that. So
Absolutely.
this is
Absolutely.
just one of those fun things that we do for our audience and those that are listening and watching, to maybe get to know you a little differently, or get to know something about you that they didn't know before. And so I'd like to just go ahead and jump into those questions now, if you're okay with that.
Please, let's do it.
Great, great. So Usman, what is your favorite word? What's your
Yeah,
favorite?
I thought a lot about it, and I have a toss up between two. So, but I'll go with the one that I think is my favorite word. It's winning, right?
Winning.
I love winning, right? And I think it's all about winning. And my second word, I think that kind of is a building block towards winning, is empathy, right?
Mhm.
You got to be able to understand who that is, but you got to be able to win. You got to be able to produce the results.
I love.
And winning has so much positive fallout that it just sets the tables apart. And you got to have that winning mind frame, right? You
Mhm.
got to have that winner's mind frame,
Yeah.
and that's super super important, I think. And especially in these times, when we really doubt a lot of things and we question a lot of things, winning becomes super super important.
Yeah. So let's pivot and say, what's your least favorite word?
Again, two words. For me, hate is a really really bad word.
Mhm.
Okay, it just negates everything, right? And the second one I would say is can't. Right, I can't do this, right?
Mm.
So you got to have the doer mindset, right? And you
Right.
can't hating things, right? So you got to be a positive minded individual on this one.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So what's something that could make your day? What's something that could make your day?
um, so I love hearing about my product. I love hearing about my company, but I like hearing things that are genuine. I can see through the fog of people giving some contrived fake compliments.
Mm.
So, and again, it goes back to that winning mindset, right? So winning is what makes my day, right? If I close a deal on a certain day and I just feel really, really sure that I've just presented extremely well and people understood what I'm saying, that just makes my day.
That's good. That's good. So what's something that could ruin your day?
Ah, losing? No.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Um, again, people that are complainers, they ruin my day, right? I don't like complainers. I think there's so much going on. There's so many things in our favor today, that there's very little room for us to, these are again those things that our parents probably taught us back in the, from the 60s and 50s, and, the positive mindset that comes along with that. Um, so complainers ruin my day.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like it. What's a noise or sound that you love?
Yeah. I, Kaching? No.
The register ringing in the background. I
Yeah.
love
I think, I like, I think that is, to be honest, very frankly, that is a sound that, or the gong going off when you close a deal.
it. Mhm,
All
for
of
sure.
those are good things, good sounds that I look forward to. hearing.
That's good. That's good. That's good. What's a noise or sound that you hate?
Whining,
Hmm.
right? I don't like people who are, I mean, why? You've got so many things going in your credit. It's just, just adding a lot of headwind against yourself.
Yep. There
You
you go.
gotta take it out. You got to just go straight for the jugular, right?
I
And there's
love it.
a lot of positivity in that.
I love it. I'm picking up on a theme here, Uzman. Nothing's
Yeah.
stopping. Nothing's stopping you. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. What profession other than your own would you have liked to attempt?
So this is a little bit of a cheating because I had another profession. I actually studied architecture at University of Michigan. I'm still a huge design fan across the board. I like design, whether it's architectural design, interior design, graphic design, user experience design, automotive design, fashion design. I'm just a designer at heart in my mind. I love product design. So, and by the way, I get to live that. I'm in as a CEO of a company where design is very paramount. How people engage and interact with our product, and get the satisfaction. Another thing that I really like hearing is when people say, you know, it's very intuitive. That's a
Hmm.
huge compliment, right?
Yeah.
That's what we strive for. We
Sure.
took a very complex problem and we made it extremely intuitive. People can pick it up and start
Hmm.
using it.
Yeah. It's gold. Well, I'm sure that our listeners got a lot out of today's podcast. I'm so, so happy that you were on today. Uzman, how do they find you? If someone wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning and says, man, I just got to talk about neuroscience with someone, how do they find you?
Yeah, so two ways. One is go to LinkedIn, Shaikh, Usman, Usman, Sheikh, Sheikh, on LinkedIn for XIQ. You'll find me there. I'm very active. I respond to a lot of people. Here's another thing. Everybody that uses our platform, I connect with them. So I've got thousands of connections as a result of that. I reach out to them and I connect because I want to hear from them, right? So I appreciate anybody coming in. And then pretty much I'm everywhere. I'm on Instagram. I'm in TikTok. Our company website, LinkedIn page is there, xiqinc.com. You can write to contact at xiqinc.com and you can get a hold of me.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being on today. I can't thank you enough. And I'm like I said, I'm sure that if there should be lots of people connecting with you and reaching out to you on this solution. It is intuitive, it's dynamic. And again, Uzman, thanks again, and we'll see you soon. I always close out every podcast like this. So I always say, keep selling and have fun doing it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris, for having me on your show.
Alrighty. Bye-bye now. This is the reason why you should buy. And we're not asking the most important question, the reason why it was important for them, in their heart of hearts. Like, that's a sale. Then we're going to see results, the mindset. Going into every opportunity, saying to yourself, I would love to have the business, but I don't need the business. When they talk about building their organization just through referral, that means they're missing it. The internet almost shut down because they're like, are you blind? Do you not know what's going on out there?